Hospitality Meets is brought to you by RotaCloud, the staff scheduling app for hospitality teams. RotaCloud lets you create and share rotas, record attendance, and manage your team's annual leave, all in less time than it takes to make a brew. It can also make life easier for your staff, allowing them to check their rotas, request holiday, and even pick up extra shifts, all through the RotaCloud mobile app. Start your 30-day free trial today by visiting rotacloud.com/Phil and find out how much easier managing your team can be. Welcome to Hospitality Meets with me, Phil Street, where each week we take a light-hearted look into the stories and individuals that make up the wonderful world of hospitality. Today's guest is wee Scottish livewire Rachel Thomson, Operations Director Extraordinaire. Coming up on today's show, Rachel gets ready for her dinner.
I'm so hungry, I'm so ready.
Phil gets deeply offended.
I am deeply offended by that.
And Rachel gives her perspective on one of Phil's stories.
That's quite savage, actually. What an approach.
All that and so much more as we chat through Rachel's quite epic journey so far. Rachel really brought the energy and passion from the outset, and there's so much gold dropped here all the way through. A huge thank you to her for bringing her A-game. As always, if you're enjoying the show, please don't forget to give us a subscribe, a like and a share across your favourite social channels. Enjoy!
And a huge Hospitality Meets welcome to the wee Scottish livewire that is Rachel Thomson.
I love it. Hi, Phil, how are you?
I'm alright, how are you?
I'm bro, I'm good, thank you.
You're bro!
I'm bro. Aye.
There we are. I know when we were talking about doing this, we said, wouldn't it be a laugh if we just did the first 15 minutes in full on Scottish?
I know, and I wonder how many people would understand us as well.
And that's the problem, isn't it? Yeah, you would have to put subtitles up. Except you can't really do that on a podcast, so you'd need to overlay the audio in Queen's English.
I can do that too. I can do some RP, raw pronunciation on top. Why not?
Yeah. So how's things? Where do we find you today?
Things are good. I'm in Sidcup on the board. I pretend I'm a Londoner, by the way, because my bin says the London Borough of Bexley. So I always tell people I'm a Londoner, but apparently I'm not.
Right.
So I'm at home, chilling. What about you? You're home as well, I think.
Yes, and I'm London Stansted.
Oh, are you?
Because that's what the airport says. But we're absolutely nowhere near London. We're 45 minutes out. So
brilliant.
So tell the world who you are and what you do.
Yes, so I am Rachel Thomson. I am an ops director and concept developer. I'm currently taking some time out, which is really nice. I had the first Christmas ever where I was drinking whiskey, eating turkey, and I wasn't worrying about what was happening in operations. So it was a one-off, first one ever.
Right. Yeah. But it can be such a crazy time, of course, at Christmas. But actually, when you're in the thick of it, I don't think you ever really think about, oh my God, I'm working at Christmas. Like it can be really good fun as well. Yeah, no,
that's it, definitely. And I think it's just embed in you from because I was very young when I started working in hospitality. And, working Christmas Day and Boxing Day and New Year's Eve was just so common and so normal. So it does feel very odd. And I think there is a massive amazing spirit that comes with that, when you're all sort of working those periods. And I think a lot of emotion as well, they're like in hospitality, we're also... as one, we have these amazing relationships that are formed, and you spend so much time at work more than you do at home, right?
Yeah.
So it's a really special time, but it has been quite strange, but also quite refreshing to have this first ever Christmas not in hospitality.
Yeah.
So currently sort of looking for my next challenge, taking my time and just looking for the sort of right fit for me. So. Yeah, bit of a different one for me, definitely. I'm used to going 100 miles an hour, as you say, live wire. That's very appropriate. It's quite a change to sort of just be a bit chill over this period.
Yeah, and your story, which we'll obviously get into in the fullness of time, but it is another one for me whereby. Before I started this podcast, we had not met. I knew nothing of you and your background. I think you very kindly liked something that I did once upon a time and across somebody's chat. And I then looked into your background and I was like, wow, holy moly, you've got some I'm sure you've got some stories to tell, but there's also your journey is quite incredible from the outside looking in. So that's the joy of I suppose this industry is that it's so vast that even somebody like me, I suppose, who even my day job requires me to be quite well connected.
Yeah.
So the podcast has helped that no end, but it's introduced me to people and to stories that I just would maybe not naturally have come across. And yours definitely looks to me like it's one of those.
Oh, thank you. No, I think for me, I mean, I'm very, very, very ambitious, and I like to take risks and I like to go against the status quo. I believe that that's what makes you stronger. And I think the biggest thing that I did was obviously way back when I was a young lady without the wrinkles, without the grey hairs coming through. And, I was working as a waitress essentially.
In a cocktail bar?
No, sadly, no. I can sing that for you though, if you like. You do it. But yes, I was working then. And then I think, I was 5 years actually as working in Spirit Pub Company at the time. And I think within 1 year, I was holding my first ever pub. And I was like, wow.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was super quick, but it was hard. It was so hard. And I made so many mistakes. Like I remember my old GM, who I'm very grateful for because she taught me so much. She taught me the why. In business, when people are quite nervous to ask why, she always pulled me up and was like, why have you done that? I'm like, I didn't have the answer. So she taught me to be accountable and actually think of why I'm making actions. But I do remember, I used to take 1 hour to cash up every night, regardless of if it's a 10-minute job, I took 1 hour again and again and again. I pushed the button and checked it again and again. And everyone got so bored of me doing that. Like, why is she taking so long to cash up? And then I remember I left £3,000 on the chair in the office. And the next day I got a message, obviously completely oblivious. And then my GM said to me, she said, I think this is too much for you. And I was like, oh my, it was that was probably my biggest moment where I was like, no. And I remember sending probably my old BlackBerry or Nokia or whatever was in those days.
God, you're aging yourself here.
Oh my God. And I was like, no. I was like, I want my own pub. I remember so vividly. I was like, I want my own pub. Just forget that mistake, whatever. And that's when I switched it. I was like, nah, I'm so hungry. I'm so ready. And yeah, I was holding my first ever pub, which was it was chaos.
How old were you at that point?
I would have been 22, 23.
Wow, nice. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think in those days that's quite young, isn't it? Because, I remember they'd come out and say, can I speak to the landlady? And I'm like, yeah, that's me. They're like, excuse me. I'm like, no,
is your mum around?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, I am manager. They're like, yeah, good one. Where is she? I was like, no, really. And I think looking back on that, that was quite tough, because people were sort of judging you just because of how young you were, young female, running a pub. And I remember that I'd have a dress on and a red lipstick and I look all glam. And then within 1 hour, I'm in the kitchen cooking steak. I've got chip fat in my hair and I'm like, wow, this is the pub life, is it? It was
I chose this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what am I doing? And I think, how many times I actually questioned what am I doing was quite a lot, copious amounts.
But that's good though. That's exactly because you could have answered these questions and gone, this is not for me. So the fact that you're asking the questions and you're coming to the conclusion, no, I still want this. I still want this. And it's, interesting to me is, where did the drive come from? Why, as in, you said, I know I'm going to kind of show you that I want this, but where did you've got to have that within you so where do you think the spark came that actually this is the thing that I really want to do?
Yeah, I think I just fell in love with the whole hospitality, and I think it's so fluid as well. It's not the same every day, and I actually thrive on those kind of environments. And I used to say this actually, that if I worked in Tesco, I would want to be the fastest ever at scanning all the products. That's me. And when I did a lot of sports when I was younger as well, when I was competing sort of in badminton. I was playing football. I played for a women's football team and things like that. So I've always sort of had that competitive nature inside me.
Right.
And I think that when I got into hospitality and into this particular sort of role that I was in, I was like, this is it. This is getting my fire. My belly is going. And that's kind of where it came from, really. But I was very, very driven because there are some situations that, would really test a lot of people. And I remember there was a pub that I was running in Derby. We had a Premier Inn attached to it, actually. So I was learning all about how to run a sort of hotel and run a restaurant and stuff. And I had nothing. I had a suitcase with some clothes in it. I had a camp bed and I had to borrow a duvet and a pillow from the hotel. And I was just, it was awful. And I remember it was just not the best environment. And, those are the days I was like, is this really like the life you want to live? But I was just so ambitious that I'm going to do it. I'm going to absolutely achieve what I want to achieve.
Yeah, but I think anybody who's kind of made anything of their lives, and I'm not just talking about hospitality here, like in any sector, they've usually had to, swab the decks or, whatever the analogy is of, just really, it's not all glitz and glamour. The glitz and glamour will come.
Yes.
But you've got to put the hard yards in.
Exactly. And I think, what we were talking about this before, but being in hospitality, I would say we are just all so resilient, as our nature of who we are. And we have, situations that wouldn't arise in a 9 to 5 in an office. You're not going to have a restaurant of 200 people and then the gas goes off and you have to deal with that situation. You've got 200 unhappy people. You're going to have an unhappy investor because your money's not coming in. You're going to have an unhappy team because they have to get sent home. It's just so many situations that arise. And I think that, you have to be so ready and sort of able to deal with that and handle that. And I think that's the best thing about hospitality is everyone's so supportive. As we were talking about before, there's a massive network. Everyone's well connected and everyone just wants, to see others do well. And I think that's what's quite special about the world that we live in hospitality, definitely.
No doubt. Yeah. But also I think these moments that require you to be resilient, you can't put a price on what that's actually just teaching you about life skill, I've spoken about this so many times on this show around, especially, a couple of years ago when they were talking about the visa situation on the back of Brexit and all of that. And, we're going to look at the low skilled parts of, the workforce. And I was like, I am deeply offended by that terminology because, actually the greatest skill that exists in the world is the ability to make people feel special.
Yes.
In the moments where you don't feel special yourself.
Yes.
And my God, I've just summarised that brilliantly, haven't I? Well, yeah, let's go on a t-shirt.
That's beautiful. Yeah, we're going to get some t-shirts made. Some LinkedIn posts for inspiration for tomorrow.
Yeah, surprising myself here on a Friday morning, but but it's true for me. I think. I don't think we shout about that as a wonderful byproduct of being in this industry enough. I think, what it can then give you, even if your time in hospitality is short, the things that you learn while you're here will stand you in amazing stead for the next phase of your life, whatever that looks like.
I completely agree. And I think what's so good about hospitality is you've got all the different parameters and aspects of the business. So, sort of in the position I'm in now, I mean, I've got exposure to marketing, I've got exposure to sales, I've got exposure to financials, IT, HR, health and hygiene. It's a massive remit. And I think it's quite unique to be able to have that. And you could transfer your skills as well. You don't have to stay in hospitality forever. If you wanted to get into retail, for example, there is a possibility to use those skills and transfer into a completely different model. But yeah, there are some amazing skills you do get. And as you say, the real life situations are, I mean, wow. I'm sure you've got stories as well, but there's just some really, oh God. Story time.
The cash flow, the cash float thing that you were just talking about there. I was just that you triggered me in some ways because when I first started on a cruise ship as a receptionist, and we used to handle, I think our floats were $8,000, and we used to handle multiple currencies, and this was in the days before Euro. Once again, I'm dating myself here, but so you'd have at any one time you'd have 4 or 5 currencies in your float. So you got to balance, the cash differential between the exchange rates, etc., etc. And the early lessons that you get, I had something very, very similar happen to me, is that I left my float open and I don't know, went to the toilet or went to ask somebody a question or something like that. And then what they used to do is that the leaders would just occasionally do a sweep to see who was leaving their floats open and just take money out of them. So you wouldn't learn that until you got to cash up at the end of the day, and you go, I'm 500 quid down. I don't know why. I feel like I've done everything correctly, nearly at the point of breaking down in tears. And then somebody will go, I've got it here.
Oh, wow.
What do we learn from this, Phil? And you're like, okay, let's make sure that whenever we're walking away from the float, that we keep it locked up.
Yeah, that's quite savage, actually. What an approach, eh?
Yeah, but it worked. It worked. I never ever made that mistake ever again. And I think that's these lessons that you learn. Sometimes you need people to be hard about the things that you do wrong.
It's so true. And I remember I was in a hotel in Leicester and we were doing weddings. It was a really big venue. And I was actually the deputy sort of, on that progression to really work myself up. And my GM was on holiday. It was her birthday and she went to Las Vegas. Amazing. Very jealous. And then it was a Sunday. It was sunny. It was beautiful. And there was a massive beer garden, like probably 250 covers outside. It was just a very big venue. Anyway, so on that day, there was, I think it was a baby shower that was booked in. Plus we had all the bookings for Sunday. It was a proper destination venue. So I'm like, right. And then obviously you had the walk-ins from it was sunny. So I walk in and I'm in charge because my GM's on holiday in Vegas and I don't want to disturb her. And my head chef didn't turn up. I'm like, oh no. Honestly, he didn't turn up. And then the other chef called in sick. There was nobody in that kitchen. So I was like, okay, Rachel, you need to make some really concise and clear decisions here. So this is another lesson that I learned as well. I was just hungry for the money and I was trying to show off and be like, I can handle this. So I'm in there with the hotel receptionist making prawn cocktails for this, function in there. The orders are just coming in and it was out of control. It was one of the worst services I've ever been in my entire life. And I was the problem, obviously. And then what happened was so bad is the baby shower complained. They were like, this is a disaster. So I actually went to the ATM machine, imagine, and I got money out of my own account and I just refunded them all. I got it all in my pocket and I just said, right, how much do I owe you?
God. How
much do I owe you? I felt so bad.
Right.
And then the next day, there was so many reviews on TripAdvisor, like absolute disaster. I was like, wow. So I had to learn a big lesson, because that can affect a business so badly. You've got the online reviews, you've got it was like a kind of community hub as well.
Right.
So word of mouth.
Absolutely nowhere to hide.
Oh no, I was exposed really. And I think that was one of my, another large lesson for me of just, having to handle business in the right way and saying no, right? You say we cannot, and sort of being able to understand volume management because I was still quite junior. I was still learning my way. And I think, my prerogative was just to make money and look great when my boss comes back. But what happened, Phil?
None of that happened.
Exactly. But yeah, no, it's true. And just these situations you can also get the impression from your line manager that, is she really up to this? Can she handle it? And stuff like that. So you really have to work hard to learn and take each punch as they come, because they do come.
Yeah. But I would hope in a situation like that people can, your leaders can identify the fact that ultimately did come from a position of care. It might have been misplaced in terms of how you wanted to execute that care. Yeah. But, it's just because you wanted to make it a success.
Exactly. That's it. The intentions were pure, Phil, but the delivery was not very strong. So yeah. But it's so nice to reminisce on these sort of situations that helped us to be who we are today, right?
Yes. Anyway, we're kind of coming off piste here a little bit with regards to your story. Actually, what I wanted to cover before we carry on with the story is, where are you from originally?
So I am from a fishing village called St. Monans, which is in Fife.
Sounds
Do you know
delightful. I don't know the specific place. I know Fife obviously quite well. Yeah. We used to we used to day trip because I'm from Perth, so we're not a million miles away. used to day trip to Ely.
Yes, it's basically 2 miles from Ely.
Okay.
It's so you've got Ely and then St Monans and then Pittsingwim. It goes in that.
Right.
And then Anstruther. Anstruther's quite popular. It's a lot of tourists go there. They've got the best fish and chip shop ever.
Right.
It's
such
good.
A beautiful part of the world.
I know. I'm very, very lucky. And I was brought up, sitting on boats and going crabbing, and it was absolutely beautiful. And my mum every Saturday would take me to the little shed and we'd get some scallops and some kippers and we'd take them home and cook them fresh off the boat. Amazing. I know.
God, absolutely. Do you think that's where being kind of in an environment where tourism is obviously quite a major part of the area, do you think that sparked an interest in the industry?
It may have. I mean, I've not really sort of pinpointed that as a reason why, but I do remember what probably got me going as such was I worked. I don't know if you heard of Bruce Sangster. He's a chef patron, and he is absolutely fantastic. And he had a little restaurant in Ely called Sangster's. I don't know if you've heard of it. If you know Ely.
I guess it was such a long time ago. I'm so old now. So it was. I was going there when I was a kid. So it's probably changed immeasurably.
Yeah, it probably wasn't there then. I don't know. Yeah. And I worked as a waitress in their restaurant, and it was the freshest, most beautiful food ever. And I think that's when I got my foodie sort of perspective on life. I was like, wow, monkfish, scallops, halibut, and it was just done to perfection. So I had the honor of working there for, I think it was a year that I did there, and it was owner led. So I was literally hand in hand with the owners, and they treated me so well and taught me a lot about real fine dining. And I think I remember there was a Michelin inspector as well at that point, and I was there. I was serving the Michelin inspector and things like that. So, I got that from the start. But I did work from a very young age. I was 13 when I started working, and I was working for £1.50 an hour. Can you believe it?
Yeah, God. Well, my first salary was 50p an hour. That was my parents with their child labour. That was teaching me all these lessons. But we are definitely dating ourselves here, aren't we?
We are. I know what's happening. We're meant to be cool, and we're like, we're just coming across a very old boy. But yes, I think that probably because I was working, I was cycling to work. I had a yellow bike, and I would cycle 1.5 miles. And I worked in a baker's. I was making sausage rolls and pies, and then I'd cycle back home. So I think that ethic was instilled from quite a young age, and then carried on and sort of evolved as I was going from business to business. But I definitely think Sangsters was a great chance for me to really understand what I wanted to do. So
right, yeah. So back to where we were in your story. So you're a pub landlady. At this point, what happened next?
Yes, so I was very determined to move up. When you're like, I'm ready, I really want to move up. There was discussions that I could do a program for an area manager, and it's 18 months, and I'm like, no, that's too long for me. I'm ready. I was very set, and I am as a person. I do, when I believe in something, I will go with full conviction that I'll do what I can to achieve it at least. So I decided I want to go international. As I literally just said, I'm going to move abroad. And that was it. I had that conversation with myself. I applied for some jobs. So I applied for some jobs in Abu Dhabi, some jobs in Dubai. And over Skype, I didn't even have to fly over there. I landed my first role in Abu Dhabi. So I resigned, obviously, from that role, but it was 5 years. It was a strong tenure. Obviously, learned a lot from a sort of corporate perspective, structured perspective, and that was my biggest learnings, really. And then I went to live with my parents while I waited for my visa, and I flew to Abu Dhabi on my own and started as a GM over there in a beautiful, it was stunning, a beautiful restaurant on the mangroves, and we had. It was just, oh my God, it was absolutely beautiful. And I started there, and I think within sort of 6 to 7 months, I was then promoted into a cluster operations role. So then I had 3 sites, and it was quite quick actually in terms of progression. But I think the best thing I've ever done in my life was to move over there, and I learned a lot about myself. I also learned business in a totally different perspective, cultures, nationalities. It really opens your eyes as to You know, it's just so different. Was it hard? Absolutely. I remember the first night, I didn't have any Wi-Fi. I had my suitcase, my furniture wasn't delivered, so I just fell asleep on a tiled floor in my flat when I was in, and I thought, is this what I want?
Yeah, once again, yeah, here we are, back to the glamour.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, another question for myself. You know, and it was tough, and I think going on your own to a different country abroad is such a big bold move.
Absolutely.
And because you're creating bank accounts, you're kind of closing your life over here and moving over there. So, but the business over there is quite different. We have, in terms of, it's very dynamic. Things change overnight in the Middle East, and that's what's obviously excites me, because I like to be kept on my toes. And yeah, as I say, just a massive learning in terms of cultures, nationality, and sort of bringing in a different approach to business with sort of marketing ideas or sales ideas, and sort of making everyone feel as one, and sort of making the team feel valued was really, really a key thing for me over there. So yeah, that was the big move in 2015. Yeah, 2015 we moved
Right.
over.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that part of the world is just non-stop, isn't it? I mean, as you say, the evolution of the offer, there's always new things coming online. So that keeps you on your toes from a business perspective, or you can get your head turned as well quite easily, because that shiny new thing has just come to town and everybody wants to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's also, that part of the world is responsible for one of my lamest dad jokes, which I don't know. This might be the end of my reputation, actually, if I say this. But I can always edit it out, right? But yeah, so here we go. If I remember this correctly, what's the difference between Dubai and Abu Dhabi?
What is the difference between Dubai and Abu Dhabi?
So the people from Dubai don't like the Flintstones, and the people from Abu Dhabi do.
I've actually heard this before.
Yes, indeed. I've actually said, that's the second time I've done that in a public forum. I can't believe I'm still here.
Wow.
But there we are.
It was exceptional, honestly. Thank you for sharing.
It's worth coming on the show just for that, wasn't it?
This is my highlight. It's all I'm going to think about today when it's done. Like that joke from Phil was amazing.
Yeah.
But that was a dad joke for sure. But yeah,
it was, yes. So, how long were you actually in the Middle East for?
I was there for 5 years altogether. So okay. I did 2 years in Abu Dhabi and then 3 years in Dubai.
Right, yeah. And in that time, you got some fairly insignificant recognition.
Yeah, I mean, are you talking about the power list, the
Correct.
women in power? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's what I'd say. Yeah. So, I mean, that was a pinch me moment, honestly, that I really, even to this day, I'm like, am I on that really? And actually the background behind that is what makes it even more special. So the caterer, obviously in the Middle East, is massive. And I think Dubai is so strong on comms and network and sort of recognition and valuing sort of key players in the industry. And what they used to have was a power list, but they never had a women in power list. So this was the first ever list that they made for women. And this was in 2020, if I remember correctly.
Right.
And
what a year that was.
Yeah, gosh, I know.
And we can skirt over that. That's fine.
Actually, was it 2020? God, I can't remember. Edit that out.
I mean, it doesn't really matter what year it was. You got the recognition, so that's the most important thing.
Yeah, no, and it was really special because obviously, as I say, it was the first ever, and it was sort of recognising women in the industry who are sort of influential, powerful, and the list is called Women in Power. But the women on that list, I cannot, like, rubbing shoulders with them was just, wow, a pinch me moment. There's some absolute powerhouses on there who inspire me, who have inspired me, who continue. I'm watching them on LinkedIn, like I was on a list with you.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, look at you, hey. So, you know, it's really, it really was a massive moment in my career. And it's sort of, you know, I think especially in the Middle East, when you are a female over there, it was, I guess at that time, it's evolved a lot more now. But you have to be strong, right? You have to hold your own. You have to hold your ground. You have to be very, very aware and adaptable, and who you just believe in who you are.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, to get on that list was, it was an absolute pinch me moment. And I'm extremely grateful to be on that. But it was quite tough. You did a sort of a vetting process of your results, what you've achieved, and so on. Then you got shortlisted and then they announced it. But I remember they tagged me on Instagram and I was like, the caterers tagged me, and that was it. And that was the moment.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
5-star hospitality means having the right people in the right place at the right time, and that's exactly where RotaCloud can help. RotaCloud is the online platform that makes planning rotas, recording attendance, and managing annual leave easy. Its simple, drag-and-drop interface lets you create and share rotas with your team in minutes, while our built-in budgeting tools mean you'll know exactly how much you're spending on staffing before sending the rota out. RotaCloud also makes life easier for your staff, allowing them to check their rotas, request time off, and pick up extra shifts, all through the RotaCloud mobile app. Start your 30-day free trial today by visiting rotacloud.com/Phil and find out how much easier managing your team can be.
But I suppose as well, did that come about? Did somebody nominate you for that without you kind of really knowing that it was happening, or was it kind of quite open?
It was quite open. So there was an agency, a sort of PR agency that I was working with, PR marketing agency. And a lot of them, I think almost all of them were women. And they obviously have the insight that this list is coming and so on. And they sort of were like, you, like, Rachel, you must like, let us nominate you for this. You know, you'd be perfect. And they obviously worked with me and saw how I am, what I'm about, and so on. So I was very flattered for them to sort of approach me. But so yes, they nominated me, and then I did a few sort of things about my achievements or whatever, and then and that was it. But it was very exciting.
Well, it's also, you know, from a food and beverage perspective, it's, you know, it's quite an incredible area. So then to feature on a list in an area that's so F&B focused, you know, number 13.
Number 13.
Just being on the list.
For some.
Indeed, but not you.
Unlucky for some, Phil. But number 13. And I think there was 25 women on the list altogether, obviously. But and I think the number one, so inspirational. But I think consecutively they're just like number one because they are just absolute one of the best in business for sure.
Right. Yeah. But well, you're mates now, though, aren't you? So.
Well, yeah.
We're on the list. We're mates.
On the list, you all need to be friends with me, okay? And we'll all go, No, but and I think that, you know, as I say, there's some really, really amazing names on there, and it's, you know, a credit as well to the Middle East to actually bring that out and start to really embrace and drive women to feel powerful, to feel, you know, strengthened in what they do and recognise. And I think recognition is so key in this business because we work bloody hard, right? And I think recognition is such an important tool for even from a junior perspective to even senior roles. You know, you do need recognition because it allows you to sustain what you're doing, to elevate what you're doing, I just think it's very important. So it's fantastic they're doing that, and I will, you know, say the Middle East is amazing at all those sort of awards and categories and rising stars, and they have stuff like, you know, head best housekeeper in the UAE and stuff, and that's amazing. You know, how are you the best housekeeper? Like, how do they judge that? I don't know, but they do, and they do really recognise, which is fantastic.
Yeah, who's got the best hospital corners? That's the
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm sure that's on the list. Tick.
Exactly.
Yeah,
definitely.
But no, I agree with you. I think the recognition for the work that you do is absolutely necessary. Even if you're somebody like you who's got a lot of self-drive and a lot of, you know, not necessarily out there to do it for the recognition. You're out there to, you know, to get yourself ahead and as elevated as you can make yourself.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when somebody comes along and recognizes that the effort that you're putting in, I just think these moments are absolutely necessary because these are the things that keep you motivated, right? These are the things that keep you going, well, good that somebody is recognizing that I'm putting my heart and soul into this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it helps you. Okay, what else can I do? That's the next question you ask yourself.
It's true. And I think especially managing teams as well, I love to recognize my team. A thank you comes out of me daily, always. I always say thank you. I always recognize, great performances. And I think that builds trust as well in your team and respect, because they realize that you can obviously see from your perspective what they are achieving. And I think when we are growing teams, whether the junior or the GMs, ops managers, and so on, we should always just keep that in the back of our mind that recognition goes so far. And sometimes it can be sort of, I don't know the word, what I'm thinking of here. Sometimes it can just be disregarded because we're all so hectic and we're all sort of driving for the sales and we need to make profit and we need to get EBITDA and we need to do this and we do. But actually you saying thank you to someone who's just done something is just, it's more precious than, I think.
Yeah. And I know everybody's different with this, and they all have their different metrics as to what drives them, et cetera, et cetera. But I think that's it's massively important that you as an individual understand what emphasis you put on things like this, because certainly for me, as I look back, the people who got the best out of me recognized that I'm gonna thank him for that, and that just made me feel like, well, I'm doing the right thing here, so I'm going to do more of the right things. But not everybody reacts that way. Some people like to get bashed over the head with a leak, to get the best out of them. I'm not advocating that, by the way, as a management tool.
Gosh, she'll be in the Hospitality Gazette.
Yeah, indeed.
No, it's a very valid point, and I think I guess I'm speaking quite sort of overarching, but yeah, it's true. And some people thrive on just being tough loved and pushed into that corner and come on then, what have you got? But yeah, I think the majority. I mean, I just think recognition, whatever capacity, is just really important. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. So across Dubai, what sort of businesses were you operating in? Across the Middle East, I should say, not just Dubai.
Yeah, no, of course. So I was with an Italian chain, Carluccio's actually, in Abu Dhabi, and I love Carluccio's. I think they're absolutely fantastic. I think their philosophy on who they are and their ethos they nailed it. And to work in that environment was amazing. And I think that taught me the next level of I guess, business operations and care about the food quality. Because I guess in the UK, I was working with, let's say, not entirely fresh food, right?
Right.
Yeah, and then going over to Carluccio's was, every morning we're doing batch tasting, and I'm like, oh guys, you need more seasoning in here, you need more this. I was really learning that sort of side as a manager, which was great. And then I moved on to an asset management company, and they had, I think it was 5 hotels at that point, sort of 400 bedroom hotels, quite big in the Dubai world. And we were basically looking after the F&B division. So there was the hotel side, there was the asset management sort of owner rep, and then there was us sort of driving that food and beverage division. So we had concepts that were already there that we would evolve, or we would just monitor performance. So my title was actually, it's so long, but it was concept development and performance managers. So I would performance manage the entire portfolio. So every dirham that comes out, I've not said that in a while. My
so
eyes were on, my eyes were on every dirham that was moving in that business, and it was a remarkable role. And I think that the who I was working with, Duncan, he was so inspirational and really taught me a lot about how to think outside of the box and really be assertive in decision making and things like that. And he was so creative, very, very creative. So we would then together sort of, perhaps he would have created one and I would evolve it or execute it. And then as time got on, I would then create my own concepts and do from literal concept to launch, which was amazing. I loved it. And yeah, it allows you to really sort of, and you're working with executive chefs, you were creating a menu, you were signing off the menu, you were looking at uniform, you were looking at interiors. It was just, it was fantastic. And the ability to be so creative was just great. But the company itself, I mean, they're building the tallest hotel in the world right now. So yeah.
They love a statement over there, don't they?
Yeah, definitely. So, but that was a really fantastic role, and sort of having that ability to get so deep into the business side. So, sort of from a financial, I was learning about depreciation and cash injection and cash flow. I was like, oh wow, okay. So I had this real in depth ability to sort of go into that business elements. And then we had like hygiene, as I was saying earlier, sort of all the pillars of the business. I was able to be a part of. So that was my sort of biggest role today in terms of exposure to the higher level sort of management. Essentially, it was
Yeah.
it was
All
good.
part of the
Very good.
development of, and I suppose as well, you look back on who you were as an early 20-something.
Mm,
In many ways, that person has allowed you to get to
mm,
where you are now, because
yeah.
you're still being exposed to stuff that you don't have necessarily experience in, but actually somebody sees something in you and says, yeah, you're exactly what we need for this role at
Mm,
this time. And that enriches your roundedness and capability.
yeah.
So you were in Dubai for, I keep saying Dubai, you were in the Middle East for around 5 years. What was the last role you did before you came back?
So that was the role, the
That was the
concept
role, yeah.
development performance, and I guess the reason for coming back was COVID came and Rachel went. It was
Grr.
Dubai was tough with COVID. It really, really affected it. And as you can imagine, there's a lot of tourism, right? So it's tourism led. You've got the Emirates cabin crew, the Etihad cabin crew. They're not flying. They're not coming to brunch anymore. And we had to shut down. It was a full on shutdown. And in Dubai, they have, like, if you have a restaurant, especially when I was there anyway, I'm not sure if the kind of regulations have changed, but you had to be in a hotel. That was the setup. So yeah, and what happened was, obviously it just really, really hit the F&B industry massively. So yeah, I left, and I was looking for a role, but nothing really was there that was right for me. And yeah, I made the decision. And as I say, I'm always true to myself. When I feel that something isn't right, or there's no synergy, or it's not hitting my values and things like that, then I've got to say no. So yeah, I left, and can you believe I was sipping margaritas on the beach? And I went to live with my parents for 6 months. Can you believe
Oof,
it?
goodness. Yeah, well,
I
but you know
know.
what? Such a time of life that we'll all look back on and
Yeah,
God, did that really happen?
yeah. Mm,
Nevertheless, responsible for some decisions that just have to be made, and nobody, I think, can begrudge anybody any
mm,
decisions that people made in that time, because
yes.
everybody there's so many question marks.
Mm.
How do you make decisions at a time where nobody knows what the future holds?
Exactly, that's it, and the time that it's going to take, and the damage that has been done. I think the biggest thing that really, really affected me was the people. I could see people really in a tough position, and it affected me quite a lot.
Mm.
And it was really, it was a really hard time all around. And then I guess when I came back to the UK, I kind of felt it was still, I mean, I had to quarantine for 2 weeks. I wasn't allowed to leave the house for 2 weeks. So I was eating my Space Raiders, my haggis, my
Of
square
course,
sausage. And I was like, life could not get any better right now.
yeah.
And yeah, and then I could feel the ripple effect massively. And I think the UK was a bit more lenient in terms of the whole COVID situation, because Dubai, but I remember we used to have a permit on our phone, and if you wanted to go to the shop, you had to apply on the permit to go to the shop. It was very, very, but
Right.
I loved
Wow.
that. It was, and they kept the sort of cases really, really low due to how they handled that. It was quite amazing, to be honest. But anyway, yes, I came back and sort of, yeah, I guess had a bit of soul searching, had a bit of reflection. Obviously, would I have left if it wasn't COVID? Probably not. I was quite content over there. But everything happens for a reason, Phil. I do believe in that, and obviously I then landed an amazing opportunity in my next role. So it took a bit of time, but it was worth it, as it was definitely a remarkable role. So yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's a great message in itself. Is that it is not just about. I suppose you come back to the UK with your tail between your legs a little bit, but that
Yeah,
was the tone of the world at the
of course.
time. But you've already said throughout your journey, that it's not. You've got to be true to yourself, and sometimes it takes a little bit longer to find thing that is true to that. It's
Yeah.
not just about leaping into the first thing that comes your way.
Exactly. And I think, especially when you get into sort of, well, any role, I don't know why I'm saying senior, any role, it has to, you do have to have a sense of peace. And I think, yes, jobs are hard and it's relentless and, you have to perform and, as we say, you have to be extremely resilient in hospitality. It is 24/7, anything can happen at any time and you have to be ready for that and you have to problem solve. It's quite a solution oriented business. You are constantly sort of trying to solve things that are happening. The rewards are massive though when you do, but I do believe that, no matter what you do, it has to make your heart sing, if that makes sense to you. Yes, it's going to be hard, but there must be synergy between you and the business that you're in for both parties. They obviously have to feel the same. But I think as the older I get, as I say, the more wrinkles that are making appearances on my little face, that's probably become more a thing for me than ever before, definitely. Because before I was just so hungry, but like, give me anything, I'll do it, I'll show you how good I am, and now I'm like, wait a minute, take your time.
But I think that's probably I hate saying stuff like this, but it is true. That's the maturity that comes with age, right? I mean, and not just in the numbers that you are from an age perspective, but actually the experience that comes with that and all of the things that you've done and learned over that time is that, what is important to you changes in terms of, the thing that drives you.
Yeah.
But it still has to be something that drives you. That's the key thing. You can't just be doing something that is, I'm doing this because it pays the bills. I'm doing this because I bloody want to.
Exactly. Yes. And I think I would never, ever instill that mentality in me. Sort of, I'm very much sort of, I've got my eyes on my 5-year goal, what I want to be, who I want to be, where, and things like that. And you have to sort of commit to that yourself. You have to commit to being what you've always wanted to be. And I think I agree with you definitely. There's if you're in it just for the money or just to get by, then you may not progress, or you may, but it might not be. Yeah, exactly. And it might be slightly not I'm going to say genuine, but you may not have that spark that other people do who are just so hungry to get through. And I think with hospitality, to digress it slightly, there's so many opportunities to progress. It is massive. You get a lot of opportunity, a lot of chances, and the trajectory of that is quite simple. You can go from a KP. I mean, I was a waitress, right? So you go from a waitress, you go into a team leader, you go to a deputy, you go to a GM, you go to an ops manager, you go to a director, and what's next? And it is there for you. The career pathways is lined up almost, textbook for every business, but you have to put in the work to definitely achieve that. It's not going to come overnight, essentially.
No, and indeed, and I think you in order to put in the work, there's got to be something about it that resonates.
Totally.
With you, if there's not, as you say, if you're just chasing the money, because the money does come. This is one of maybe the biggest secrets of the industry is everybody says it's a low paid industry, but actually, like most industries, when you're starting out, yes, of course, it's entry level pay.
Yeah,
but you can get to good money fairly quickly in reality. But if that's the thing that drives you, then that's not going to sustain your career. You've got to go and get a job in telemarketing or something like that, if you're money motivated. But I think there's got to be enough about the job that you're doing to excite you and to make you want to get out of bed in the morning.
No, absolutely. And I think that, I mean, I wouldn't know percentile of who and how, but there is a majority of people who are in it just, to get their sort of monthly paycheck, which is absolutely fine. And we would be absolutely nowhere without them. We would never be able to open our restaurants. We wouldn't be able to open our hotels because, they are the absolute bones of our business. But they're content, right? They're happy. And, we just have to look after them and create that culture that they feel valued and respected and want to work for us and have a reason to work for us. But then, as you say, there's that percentage of us who are just like, let's go, I'm making it to the top. Watch me. I love that, definitely.
Yeah, but the other thing about all of that is that this industry can welcome people of any mentality, right? Yes. I mean, in terms of whether you have that absolute go-get drive, or whether you do just want to come in and do your best work, and you're happy with that job, and you can be happy with that job for 20 years. The industry can absolutely reward you.
100%. And I think it's fun, as we were saying about Christmas before. Like, how cool is it that you can work on a busy bar in London and meet all these people and, have fun and engage and, do some flaring, chuck it over your head, and you can create the kind of theatrical moments, and you can go home feeling that was a great shift. And I think it's rewarding in that context as well. I remember when I used to run my first shifts, and, I would do my table allocations of it, right, okay. And if it went really well, I was like, do you know what? That was fantastic. And I was so proud of myself, And like, even when I was a waitress, if I got £20 in tips and I got a 5-star review on TripAdvisor, that was my reward, right? So I guess on every stage of your career, or wherever you are in the business, it can be so rewarding. And I think it's fun. It is fun. And anyone who tries to suck the fun out of hospitality, you shouldn't, because it is, just don't.
Stop it now.
Yeah, exactly. Finish. Because it should be fun, and that's what I've always believed in. And as I say, you make connections with people. There's emotional connections. You become a motherly figure at 25, and you're thinking, how am I going to do this? I don't know how to deal with this. And it's just a really, really unique environment. And I think I'm so grateful to be in it. Really, it's it's amazing.
Yeah. So I want to say, I don't even know what the correct terminology is, but you're between jobs at the moment. But I suppose, as you've discussed, being true to yourself around, not just jumping in to the next thing that comes along, but actually you need to find something that is, sings to you.
That's it. I've got I like that. It sings to me. No, absolutely. And I think, now it's January, February, there is, the market will be shifting slightly now, and in terms of roles and stuff. But for me, it really is looking for that role that has pure synergy, that I can add value, and vice versa. So yeah. Definitely.
But also, I would say within that, there's also a really great message as well, because, 10 years ago, your career trajectory had to look like you went from that to that to that to that, with no gaps, nothing. Yes. There's clear indications as to why you did things. But nowadays, for me, this is, I think, where maybe a shift is happening in the marketplace. People realize that, especially on the back of COVID, there was a lot of displacement. There was a lot of people who shouldn't be where they were, but they were out of necessity, or, they just had to take something because, the wolf was at the door kind of scenario.
Yes.
And all of that is now balancing itself out. And I think, taking your time to do something that's right for you is absolutely the right call. And I say that with my recruiter head on, is that I definitely would not, discount somebody because they've got a 6-month gap in their CV anymore, whereas I probably would have done 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's true. And I think, same to me, if I'm interviewing someone and, there's a 6-month gap or whatever, I mean, who are we to judge? There could be any reason for that. Yeah, and as you say, like, from my perspective anyway, that there might not have been the right role for them, or, something wasn't working, or there was, they wanted a bit of time out, and so on. And I think I'm quite lucky, though, that I can do a bit of freelance sort of little projects and stuff behind the scenes, which is quite cool for me, I guess, to get my hands on some cool projects. But yeah, I think, as I say, who are we to judge? If there's gaps in CVs, let's explain it, let's talk about it and make it normal, and we should be held to account for, a month or 2 months where there's a bit of a gap. I mean, that's okay. It doesn't matter. You're still the same person. You still achieve what you've achieved, and you're still who you are. So, and if anything, you're going to be so fresh coming into my business because you had a bit of time out, right? You're going to come in guns blazing. You're going to be
absolutely.
Like,
yeah, totally. This is a question that I don't think I've really ever asked people, so that's a good setup for you, isn't it?
Thank you.
Anybody who's listening who has aspirations to become an ops director in a business, what would you say to them as the things that they really need to kind of go and get under their belt?
I mean, for an ops director role, obviously it's a beast of a role. You're managing an entire sort of operation, and it could be 40 pubs, it could be 100 pubs, it could be 200. So you have to be able to really, really understand how to really analyze performance on a mass scale. And it's hard. Even as an ops manager, when I was developing, and I've gone 10 sites, and I have to remember every single net sales, their spend per head, their covers of the day. Like, it's a lot of information, and you have to be able to really understand how to forensically analyze that and use that strategically as well. I think being an ops director, there's a lot about, you need to not learn, but you should be really, really adaptable and agile with people. People are everything in that role, because without them, you can't do what you need to do. And I think forming relationships and also having difficult conversations and being able to sort of set your sort of stance of where you stand and what you need and is required from people is really, really key. Keeping up with
upwards and downwards, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%, absolutely. And I think we've got a lot better at being able to have those conversations now. But, before it was, a bit nervous to speak to Lucy because she didn't do something or whatever. But just be real, be absolutely open, transparent. And I think having an open communication is really important, because you gain respect and trust and loyalty. Obviously, having a really key understanding of market and really understanding a great knowledge of market trends, how that's going to affect you, keeping really up to date with what's happening. If there's train strikes that is going to happen in 3 months, strategize quickly of how you are going to mitigate that and how you are going to ensure that your profitability doesn't suffer and so on. And just really, really keeping alert on what's happening and looking at other businesses as well and understanding what their trends are versus what's happening with you. And I think really just being a lead from the front and really, really show the best example of what it looks like to be a great leader, and deliver with conviction, and also sort of be, as I say once again, be true to yourself about what you need. But I think from an ops director level, definitely having a strategic approach is absolutely key. And you have to be ready to make decisions and take accountability, especially when you get to director level. It's very much expected that you make the decision, you'll execute, you'll define an operational strategy, you'll do X, Y, Z, you'll bring in a new head count, you'll restructure, but you have to make sure that you're doing that with all conviction, and you've researched and your ROI and you know exactly what that's going to achieve. And if it fails, you have to have your hands up and be ready. But yeah. Go on forever. But yeah,
I'm smiling to myself at just how passionate and alive you are when you talk about this stuff. It's great to see, because obviously you are doing the thing that you're meant to be doing. And I think that you've just kind of summarized it. There's more to talk about, of course, but what a fabulous role you have within and the part that you play within the industry is immense.
Thank you. It's very kind. Thank you.
Very good. Right. Well, I mean, to be honest, you've covered off a lot of the questions that I would have had just through the fullness of the discussion. I'd normally ask people, what are your 3 reasons why somebody should come in? But I think you've given way more than that throughout the fullness of the conversation. So final question for me is just really centered around if people want to get a hold of you to learn more, or maybe recruit you into their business, what's the best method of them to get a hold of you?
Yeah, I mean, hit me up on LinkedIn, drop me an email. Come chat for sure. I'm always available and always open. I love meeting people in the industry. Love building my network. So yeah, definitely.
Fantastic. Rachel, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure to chat through your journey. There's more to come for sure, but we'll get you back in 10 years and see how it's progressed from there. You'll be an MD or a CEO by then.
Yeah. That's what I want. And happy birthday, by the way.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes,
birthday, indeed.
Everyone who's listening. Happy birthday. And thanks for doing this on your birthday. What an honour.
Pleasure. Absolutely. I couldn't think of anything that I'd rather do rather than talk to someone, which is my favourite thing in the whole world.
Excellent.
Nice one. Thanks so much, Rachel.
So take care.
You too. Cheers.
And there we have it. What a cracking journey so far for Rachel, and with so many great lessons and messages all the way through, the main one definitely being centred around being true to yourself. I think we can all agree that that's a belter. We will of course be back next Wednesday with another wonderful story from hospitality, but until then, thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.